Princess Elira Virellia was not allowed to have distractions. Not friends. Not preferences. And certainly not emotional attachments. Which is why the palace assigned her a non-intrusive protection unit. Translation: a guard who blends into walls. His name was Kael Rowan. No noble blood. No court influence. No ceremonial recognition. Just a quiet man who followed her 3 steps behind, never speaking unless spoken to. To the court, he was invisible. To Elira, he was becoming impossible to ignore. Scene 2, the first crack in protocol. Started small. A diplomatic banquet. Foreign nobles watching every movement. Elira laughed at something she shouldn't have found funny. A noble prince leaned closer. Too close. Kael didn't move at first. He simply stepped forward. Not aggressively. Just enough. A shift in space. Correction in proximity. The prince paused, looked up, and suddenly realized he had been repositioned without being touched. He stepped back, confused. Elira noticed everything, even the silence Kael created around her. Scene 3, the rumor begins. By morning, court whispers had already formed. The princess's guard interferes with noble interactions. He behaves beyond his rank. Why is she never alone when he is near? Jealousy doesn't need truth. It only needs pattern recognition. And Kael was becoming a pattern no one liked, because he did not compete for attention. He removed access to it. Scene 4, Elira notices herself noticing him. Later that evening, Elira confronted him privately. You disrupted a diplomatic exchange. Kael answered calmly. He was testing emotional leverage thresholds. She frowned. That's not your role. Kael looked at her. Your safety doesn't follow role definitions. Silence. A pause. Elira stepped closer. You always speak like you know more than you're allowed to. Kael replied softly. I know what happens when people pretend protection is symbolic. That was the first moment she stopped thinking of him as staff. Scene 5. The jealous court reacts. It didn't take long. A noble faction objected officially. The princess is being isolated by unauthorized influence. Another added. He is shaping her diplomatic exposure. Translation. They noticed she trusted him more than them. And that is how jealousy becomes politics. Scene 6. The attempted replacement. A new elite royal escort was assigned. Hand-picked nobles. Politically safe. Socially approved. They arrived with confidence. Kael simply stepped aside. No protest. No resistance. But Elira stopped them at the corridor entrance. Why are you here? The lead guard answered. To ensure proper distance from non-essential personnel. Elira glanced past them. To Kael. Then said. Distance from him is not protection. A pause. Then softer. It is vulnerability. Scene 7, the protective reveal. That night, an assassination attempt occurred during a sealed council session. Nothing dramatic. No explosion. Just a silent breach through protocol layers. By the time alarms triggered, Kael was already moving. Not reacting. Positioning. He intercepted before anyone else even registered threat classification. The assassin never reached the princess. Not because of luck. Because Kael had already mapped all entry probabilities hours earlier. Afterwards, silence filled the chamber. Elira looked at him. Who are you really? Kael hesitated. Then answered. Someone who reads danger before it becomes visible. A pause. Then quietly. And removes it before it learns your name. Scene 8. Jealous politics turned dangerous. The court didn't celebrate. They feared. Because protection that works too well becomes authority. And authority without permission becomes threat. A council member whispered. He is not just guarding her. Another replied. He is defining her safety boundaries. Which meant something worse. He was becoming the reason she was safe enough to refuse everyone else. And that kind of influence cannot be tolerated in royal systems. Scene 9, the emotional break. Elira confronted Kael alone. You're turning the court against you. Kael replied. I am doing my job. She stepped closer. No. A pause. You're becoming the reason I trust no one else near me. Silence. Kael looked at her differently then. Not as assignment, but as consequence. Is that a problem? Elira hesitated. Then softly. I don't know. That was the first honest crack. Because jealousy politics had already done its work. It made everything feel like ownership, even feelings that weren't meant to be political. Scene 10, the choice that changes everything. The council issued a final order. Remove Kael from direct proximity duty. Reassign him to outer security. Elira received the order personally. She read it, then walked out, straight into the council chamber, and said, "No." Silence. A counselor stood. "This is protocol." Elira replied, "Then change protocol." A pause. Then softer. "Because for the first time in my life, I am not being surrounded by people who want access to me." She looked toward the doors, where Kael stood waiting. "And I am not giving that up because it makes you uncomfortable." Final scene, romance without permission. That night, Elira found Kael on the palace balcony. No guards nearby, no court watching, just silence. She stood beside him. "You didn't have to stay." Kael replied, "It was never optional." A pause. Then she asked quietly, "Is it duty or choice now?" Kael looked at her for a long moment, then answered, "It started as duty." A pause. "And became something I can't define without lying." Elira didn't look away, neither did he. And somewhere in the distance, the court continued arguing about influence, hierarchy, and control. But none of it mattered up there, because in that moment, romance wasn't permission, protection wasn't politics, and jealousy had already lost the only battle it could understand.